I frankly am a bigger fan of not having a whole lot and yet still being happy to where I am today, rather than having so much and being unhappy. Welcome back to the Junior Mints podcast. My name is Finn Lawler. I'm your host. Purpose of this podcast is for me to talk about things that aren't really talked about that often, but definitely need to be talked about from the perspective of a young 20-something. But the perspective from me doesn't matter. All that matters is that I talk about it. Just whatever topic it is. Anyway, so today's topic, I think, is something that I personally struggle with, and let me know if you guys struggle with it too. It's the topic of living to work versus working to live. Now, I didn't know that there were differences between these two concepts until very, very recently, like a week ago. It was also because I didn't stop and think about the differences. And after careful consideration and thought, I definitely prefer working to live. To me, working to live has more of a positive meaning to it. To me, it means working towards the life you want. Working towards your happiness and contentment in life is always a good goal. That's how I view it. Living to work, that doesn't sound very good at all. I'm not saying working is bad. It's not. It's actually very necessary. Very necessary. What is bad is making work your entire life. Whether it's your career, whatever it is. I think it's important to have a work-life balance. A work-life balance is the equivalent, in my opinion, of working to live. Now, I've been in the position of living to work before, and in my personal opinion, it sucked. Something that I've noticed is that I wasn't exactly aware that I was living to work. Sorry, I had to think about that because very similar topics, but they're very, very different. Anyway, something that I didn't know before was that I was slowly becoming a workaholic. While I was still unaware of this, work would always be on my mind. I would constantly worry about things I have to do at work the next day, even when I'm hanging out with my friends or hanging out at home or not on the clock in general. I think a healthier way of looking at this is to think of work as a means to an end. That end meaning a good life. For example, you could say, I'm going to have a great weekend, so therefore I'm going to work for my next paycheck and use part of that money to treat myself. Stuff like that. The idea here is to have something to look forward to outside of work. That's how I like to think of it. And, you can think of it as you can think of your happy life as the goal you want instead of the money. Sure, money is great when you work for it, but it's not the entire thing, And of course, if you're in a job right now that you're not a fan of, you always have the choice, and let me repeat that, you always have the choice to leave that job if you absolutely need to. It's part of life. Remember to take care of your psyche first. So, working to live, absolutely. Living to work, also yes. And there are some people who choose to live to work because, they enjoy what they do, and that eventually rounds out to working to live. For some people, that's the case, but I feel like for, 85% of people who work today, they want a good work-life balance, and so do I. And for the longest time, I wasn't, quite frankly, fulfilled with my life at that point. I wasn't really, content with it up until I started to notice that I was only in it for the money. You know? And sure, money's great when, let's say you want to move out of your like house or wherever you're living and you want to like live somewhere. Sure. For rent, yes. But the money should not be your whole focus in life. You know what I'm saying? And like that's how I felt for a little while. And it wasn't healthy. And here's a good way to think about it. Constantly chasing money is just, it's going to end in disappointment. It is. And I'd rather chase the goal of having a great life, you know? And I feel like if I'm constantly chasing money, then I'm not going to have a good life. You know? So, sure, with money, you can do things in life, but that's it. I mean, if you're working to live, that's what you got to do. Chase other things besides money. As a song once said, it's not about the money. It's not. And it's like, listen, I'm saying this because life is worth living. Life is worth living. It is. The money's there, sure. But I'll tell you this. I will guarantee you that here's an example. A homeless man is probably more content and quote-unquote happier than a man who is rich and has all the money in the world but no life to go with. You know, I know that's not the best example, but the point here is you could have nothing, like you could have little to nothing and still be happy, or you can have all of the money in the world, quite frankly, and not be as content. But hey, after all, these are just my opinions. I frankly am a bigger fan of not having a whole lot and yet still being happy to where I am today, rather than having so much and being unhappy. You know, it's one of those things where you don't really think about it, but when you do, it's like, oh, crap, right? So, and you know, kudos to all those people who are just like hustling, absolutely, and like working to live, living to work. Yeah, I'm not saying to me, to you guys, it may sound like I'm saying that one is better than the other. It's more of a preference. Like I would prefer to have a great life than have all the money in the world. You know? And you can do both. It just takes a lot of work. But that's up to you. You know, these are just my opinions about it. Anyway, so to conclude, there are both pros and cons to this topic. You guys know where I sit with it. I ranted about it for literally the past 2 minutes. There are going to be people who live to work. That's great. Kudos to them. You guys and gals. Kudos to you guys who live to work. Blah, blah, blah. Y'all have discipline. And then there are those who want to have a great life. I'm not saying people who work to live bad lives. I'm not. It's all a matter of preference. Everyone has different preferences. What are your preferences for this topic? Think about that. Anyway, this has been the Junior Mints podcast. Thank you guys so much for watching and listening. I have been your host, Finn Lawler. Please drop a like, subscribe down below, and stay tuned for more episodes of the Junior Mints podcast. They come out weekly, actually, in between all the other stuff that I'm publishing. But anyway, thank you guys so much again, and we will see you guys next time. Peace.